America is the only place where someone will hand over their life savings because a website had an eagle logo and used the word official in bold. And trust me, that was just the warm-up. The real disasters are still ahead. 1. A flashing bald eagle GIF was all it took for one man to enter his social security number into a website that looked like someone built it during a lunch break in 2003, complete with patriotic MIDI music auto-playing in the background. The site claimed to be an emergency government refund portal, which is exactly the kind of title scammers choose when they want to sound important without doing the hard work of legality. The man proudly told his family he'd discovered a secret government program, as if the federal government hides tax refunds behind a Comic Sans banner. The site even requested his banking login just to verify his American identity, a phrase so suspicious it practically screams in red text. Hours later, the scammers had drained his account, applied for 2 credit cards in his name, and used his email to send phishing links to half the continent. He later described the experience as unexpected, which is a polite rephrasing of catastrophically predictable. 2. A woman confidently wired $4,200 to a mysterious Federal Drone Oversight Division after receiving an email warning that she was being fined for unauthorized airspace violations, even though her most advanced flying device was a decorative hummingbird feeder. The scammers had included a fake .gov-looking seal that appeared to have been drawn by a bored teenager with access to Microsoft Paint. Yet she complimented the agency's professionalism. The email insisted she pay the fine within 24 hours to avoid further aerial infractions, a phrase that sounds like something invented by a mall cop with delusions of grandeur. She paid immediately, terrified that a government drone would soon appear over her backyard to monitor her roses. The real FAA later confirmed that no such division exists, drones do not track bird feeders, and fines are not collectible through Walmart gift cards. She was left with an empty bank account and a deep distrust of anything with wings. 3. An aspiring entrepreneur eagerly signed up for an official U.S. small business registration portal that promised to make him a certified national entrepreneur for a one-time fee of $899, a certification that has the same legal authority as a participation ribbon from a church bake sale. The website displayed photos of smiling executives shaking hands in front of stock market charts that probably came free with a PowerPoint template. The portal asked for his business information, his personal information, and, for reasons it did not bother to explain, his height. He paid the fee, printed the certificate, framed it, and proudly displayed it in his home office like he had just been knighted by capitalism. Weeks later, he discovered his business credit profile had been hijacked, his tax records accessed, and his email flooded with offers to buy exclusive government franchises, which is a phrase only used by people who should not be trusted near a cash machine. The certificate now hangs as a monument to optimism overriding common sense. 4. A couple willingly handed over their entire retirement savings because a website claiming to be the U.S. Treasury Gold Storage Network promised they could buy bars directly from Fort Knox if they signed up for a premium Patriot membership. The homepage showcased blurry stock photos of gold bars arranged like an Instagram post for people with no familiarity with finance. The scammers listed slogans like, "Keep your wealth safe from global threats," apparently unaware that real federal agencies don't advertise like late-night infomercials. The couple even called a phone number listed on the page where a man speaking with the enthusiasm of someone reading from a teleprompter insisted that demand was historically high and Americans everywhere were securing their financial futures. They wired the money, shocking no one except themselves. No gold arrived, just an email thanking them for their patriotic contribution. Their retirement dreams evaporated faster than the scammers who vanished into digital mist. 5. A man panicked after receiving an urgent notice, claiming his dog needed to be registered with the National Pet Ownership Compliance Registry, a fake bureau dedicated to scaring gullible pet owners with language that sounds like it was written by an anxious robot. The website threatened him with fines for improper animal citizenship, which is not a real legal term, but does create an impressive mental image of dogs being asked for passports. He hurriedly entered his info, uploaded photos of his Labrador, and paid a $129 lifetime compliance fee, which apparently covered the cost of scamming him. Days later, he bragged at the dog park about being ahead of the curve on pet regulations, blissfully unaware that the registry was run by scammers who now had his name, address, payment details, and a very cute photo of his dog. The only official thing about the entire operation was how efficiently it emptied wallets. 6. An elderly man surrendered his banking credentials to a website claiming to be the official Medicare Emergency Update Hub, decorated with enough red, white, and blue clip art to qualify as a middle school art project. The site warned him that his benefits would be terminated immediately unless he updated his account information, which is the digital equivalent of someone yelling "fire" in a movie theater and waiting to see who panics first. He entered everything: social security number, bank login, answers to every security question he'd ever created, because the site reassured him with a message that said, "Your data is safe in our government hands." Within hours, the scammers accessed his accounts, changed his passwords, and sent emails to his entire contact list, insisting they send money for a medical emergency. Medicare was never involved. The only emergency was how fast his savings evaporated. 7. A small business owner fell for a scam where a website posing as the Department of Workplace Poster Enforcement threatened him with thousands in fines for failing to display a mandatory labor poster he'd never heard of. The site showcased official-sounding legal jargon like Section 14B compliance mandate, which is precisely the kind of phrase scammers use when they want people to stop asking questions. He paid $350 for a compliance packet that arrived 2 weeks later and contained exactly one sheet of paper printed on an inkjet printer and folded like a sad newsletter. The scammers, feeling generous, also included a QR code that redirected him to another fake compliance website seeking additional fees. Meanwhile, the actual Department of Labor confirmed there is no such poster enforcement unit, and nobody fines businesses for being unaware of imaginary posters. The man taped the worthless sheet to his office wall, a permanent reminder that fear is the most profitable sales strategy. 8. A retiree proudly invested in the official U.S. infrastructure crowdfunding program, a website claiming ordinary citizens could earn guaranteed returns by financially supporting new bridges. The homepage displayed dramatic drone footage of highways, paired with patriotic orchestral music loud enough to drown out skepticism. The site insisted that only qualified investors were invited, which apparently meant anyone with a functioning email address. She selected the premium supporter tier, wired her savings, and awaited confirmation of her patriotic investment. The scammers rewarded her confidence by disappearing instantly, leaving behind a login page that now returned a 404 error and a sinking realization that the U.S. government does not crowdfund bridges like their trendy tech gadgets. The closest she ever got to infrastructure was holding the printed receipt of her financial collapse. 9. A man confidently submitted his tax return through a website that called itself IRS Express Rapid Refund Portal, which is roughly one adjective away from sounding like a fast food combo meal. The site reassured users that it was fully certified, though it never clarified by whom, and featured a countdown timer labeled Tax Deadline Emergency Mode, designed specifically to bully panicked filers. The man uploaded his W-2s, bank details, driver's license photos, and a selfie for verification, giving scammers every document needed to impersonate him for the foreseeable future. The IRS later notified him that someone had already filed a return in his name and claimed his refund. The only thing rapid about his experience was how quickly his financial identity was repossessed. 10. A woman fell for a scam promising a national student loan erasure program, advertised through a website that looked exactly like a high school project made with free stock icons and motivational slogans. The homepage stated, "Eligibility status critical," as if student loans were a medical condition requiring immediate surgery. She paid the upfront processing fee, which should always be the first red flag, followed by a monthly membership cost that was explained in language so vague it may as well have been written in fog. Instead of forgiveness, the scammers sent her automated emails congratulating her on progress milestones, none of which altered her balance by a single cent. Weeks later, she discovered her loan servicer had never heard of such a program, and her scammers were probably lounging somewhere using her money to celebrate their latest success in creative fiction. 11. A guy eagerly bought into an official U.S. Census identity protection program, a fake site claiming that citizens needed to renew their census status to stay on record. The website was filled with serious-looking clip art silhouettes of people holding clipboards, the universal symbol of bureaucratic intimidation. It demanded his personal information and, bizarrely, a $79 data safeguarding fee. He paid instantly, thinking he had prevented some catastrophic government clerical error that would erase him from existence. Moments later, he received a digital certificate congratulating him on his continued participation in national population integrity. Meanwhile, the real Census Bureau clarified they do not charge money, issue certificates, or require people to confirm they're alive via PayPal. The only record updated that day was the scammers' growing list of easy targets. 12. A couple scrambled to pay a $950 immediate property boundary confirmation fee after a website claiming to represent the National Land Grid Authority warned them their backyard fence was non-compliant. The website featured a pixelated map of the United States and a suspicious hotline number answered by someone who sounded like they were cooking dinner while issuing legal threats. The couple provided their address, credit card, and a photo of their fence, apparently believing federal agencies issue citations based on landscaping aesthetics. They paid the fee, expecting a certified inspector to arrive. Instead, they received a single email reading, "Thank you for your geographic cooperation," which might be the vaguest sentence ever attached to theft. The fence, unsurprisingly, was never inspected. The only boundary they crossed was the one between caution and wishful thinking. 13. A man clicked an ad claiming he had been selected to participate in the National Credit Boost Initiative, a program promising to raise his credit score by federal algorithmic optimization. The website was filled with futuristic graphics that looked like leftovers from a discontinued video game console. It instructed him to enter his credit card details so the algorithm could calibrate his financial worthiness, which is the kind of phrase scammers invent when they want victims to stop thinking logically. He paid the fee, waited for his score to rise, and instead watched as unauthorized charges appeared on his account like unwelcome guests at a birthday party. His credit score did eventually move, but downward, thanks to the ingenious optimization of the criminals he funded. 14. A woman fell for a phishing site that pretended to be the United States Passport Renewal Enforcement Division, complete with a countdown clock implying her passport would self-destruct if she didn't act immediately. The site demanded a $310 security clearance expedite fee, which is not a real thing, but she paid without blinking. It also required her to upload a photo of her passport, her driver's license, and a headshot for visual triangulation, a phrase that sounds like the result of shaking random intelligence jargon in a hat. She paid, uploaded everything, and waited. Instead of receiving a passport, she received an email saying her application has been patriotically accepted. Scam artists then used her ID to open 2 new credit accounts. Meanwhile, the actual U.S. government continued renewing passports at the same pace they always do, slowly, but at least without stealing identities. 15. A college student eagerly joined what he believed was the official White House internship pipeline after finding a website with a presidential seal that looked like it had been traced from a refrigerator magnet. The site promised fast-track access to political careers, provided he paid the mandatory executive screening deposit, a concept that exists only in the imagination of scammers and people who think LinkedIn is a personality. He submitted essays, recommendations, and a payment large enough to fund an actual semester of college. Instead of receiving a government badge, he received a congratulatory email written in broken English, informing him he had been pre-accepted for future admission consideration. The scammers vanished the next day. He later learned that real White House internships pay precisely $0 and charge precisely 0 fees, meaning the only political education he received was a crash course in gullibility. 16. A guy rushed to pay a mandatory citizenship confirmation fee after a website announced that all Americans had to renew their national identity status or risk being flagged as inactive participants in democracy, which sounds like something an over-caffeinated dystopian novelist would write if they were paid by the word. The site featured a giant golden eagle that looked like it had been traced from a middle school binder and a form demanding his address, bank info, and, because scammers never resist overreach, his political party for file alignment. He treated the entire thing like jury duty with extra paperwork and paid the $140 fee within minutes, worried that failing to do so would get him escorted from the country by men in sunglasses who probably don't exist. The real government does not deactivate citizens like expired yogurt, but the scammers absolutely deactivated his checking account, which is, ironically, the only part of the process that worked exactly as advertised. 17. A panicked woman forked over nearly $1,000 to the official National Mailing Address Validation Bureau after a pop-up claimed her home address had failed verification and she risked losing USPS delivery privileges unless she paid immediately. The pop-up arrived while she was shopping online for scented candles, which should have been the first hint the federal government does not perform emergency audits during checkout. The website displayed a pixelated map of the United States next to a screaming red banner that simply said, "Address non-compliant," a phrase with all the authority of a poorly written note taped to a fridge. Terrified at the thought of losing Amazon packages, she paid instantly. The scammers rewarded her loyalty by draining her credit card and leaving her mailbox exactly as unregulated as before. The only delivery impacted was the swift shipment of her money into their pockets. 18. A man confidently uploaded his driver's license to the National Vehicle Image Replacement Center, a website promising to issue him a futuristic digital license he could scan at traffic stops for touchless compliance. The homepage resembled a DMV office redesigned by someone who learned graphic design exclusively from cereal boxes, neon road signs, clip art silhouettes, and motivational slogans about safe driving sprinkled like confetti. It demanded a $60 activation fee, which he viewed as a bargain for anything that might save him time waiting in a plastic chair under fluorescent lighting. He paid, uploaded everything, and waited for his fancy digital license. Instead, the scammers used his ID to open accounts that absolutely did not promote touchless compliance. The real DMV later clarified that digital licenses do not arrive via unsecured websites operating from someone's basement modem. 19. A teenager enthusiastically paid $250 to join the official National Scholarship Eligibility Checkpoint, a scam so transparently fake it practically screamed for adult supervision. The site promised to determine if he qualified for elite federal scholarships, none of which anyone in the actual education system has ever heard mentioned without laughter. Its homepage featured a slideshow of stock photo graduates frozen in eternal celebration. He entered all his personal details, paid the fee, and received an email announcing he had been pre-cleared for possible award consideration, a statement so empty it could echo. The scammers then vanished, leaving behind no scholarships, no guidance, and no explanation for why he'd thought the government used dramatic fonts to evaluate academic potential. His reward was a new appreciation for the astonishing profitability of vague encouragement. 20. A frightened homeowner rushed to comply with an email from the National Energy Safety Reassessment Program demanding an immediate digital inspection fee to prevent mandatory disconnection. The site was decorated with enough warning triangles to look like a toddler had discovered clip art for the first time. It declared his household at risk of catastrophic energy failure unless he paid a substantial fee, a threat that sounds dramatic until one remembers utility providers do not shut off power because of anonymous emails. He imagined government technicians hovering over a giant switch ready to plunge his home into darkness, so he paid without hesitation. The scammers rewarded him by disappearing and leaving him with a bank account suffering a blackout of its own. His electricity remained perfectly stable, unlike his financial situation. 21. A man dutifully paid for a jury readiness certificate after a website pretending to be the National Jury Selection Eligibility Portal warned him he'd been flagged for non-cooperation. The homepage showcased a cartoon judge swinging a gavel, like he was sentencing someone for missing curfew. The site demanded personal details and a $50 processing fee to restore civic compliance, a phrase crafted to sound official while meaning absolutely nothing. He paid immediately, terrified he'd be arrested for failing a test he never took. His reward was a PDF badge declaring him jury ready, something no courthouse has ever recognized in the history of human litigation. The scammers enjoyed his contribution, while the actual justice system remained blissfully unaware of his existence. 22. A retiree donated hundreds to the official National Postal Security Fund after receiving a warning that her mailbox was not encryption compliant. The site included diagrams showing force fields around mailboxes, as if mail thieves had suddenly acquired supercomputers capable of bending reality. It argued that criminals could digitally intercept physical mail, an impossibility presented with total confidence. She paid to upgrade her mailbox access protocol, which was simply a creative way to say, "Please hand over your savings." Her mailbox didn't change, but her bank account underwent a hostile takeover. Meanwhile, the USPS continued delivering exactly as before. blissfully unaware of having been cast as the villain in a sci-fi thriller. 23. A man proudly bought a federal taxpayer verification badge from a website using more stars and stripes than the 4th of July parade. He believed the badge, delivered as a JPEG, would help expedite his interactions with the IRS, as if agents carry scanners to evaluate patriotism levels. The site demanded nearly $300 for this digital sticker, which he printed and taped to his refrigerator like a child's art project. When he presented it at a local tax office, employees reportedly stared at him the way one stares at someone attempting to pay in Monopoly money. The real IRS does not issue badges, and if they did, they certainly wouldn't charge for them like a souvenir stand. The scammers, however, graciously accepted his donation. 24. A woman eagerly registered on a website claiming to handle national marriage license renewal, believing her marriage license was about to expire like a carton of milk. The site was plastered with heart-shaped seals and language suggesting the government now participated in seasonal relationship maintenance. For a $129 love continuity fee, she could ensure her marriage remained legally active, a phrase crafted to terrify anyone who takes vows literally. She paid, uploaded identification for her and her spouse, and waited for confirmation that their relationship had not been invalidated. The government does not revoke marriages for paperwork negligence, but the scammers absolutely revoked her savings with impressive speed. 25. A panicked man paid the Federal Social Media Monitoring Bureau after receiving a message accusing him of violating digital conduct standards. The fake agency's badge looked like a police star glued to a Wi-Fi symbol by someone who misunderstood both law enforcement and graphic design. The site demanded screenshots of his accounts, because nothing says legitimacy like asking victims to assemble their own blackmail material. He paid the fine, worried that the government had started regulating sarcasm. His accounts were never suspended by any official body, but scammers did hijack them to spread spam, proving that if anyone should have been fined for digital misconduct, it was the people he funded. 26. A couple happily paid a national census pet enumeration fee because a suspiciously enthusiastic website insisted all household animals must be registered for future statistical accuracy. The site displayed a stern-looking government seal beside a golden retriever who appeared deeply confused by his newfound civic responsibilities. They entered everything: pet names, pet ages, pets' favorite foods, and even imaginary astrological signs, because the form insisted such details were important for demographic modeling. They paid a fee large enough to restock an entire PetSmart. Their only reward was a laughably vague certificate thanking them for supporting national pet metrics, something the real Census Bureau has absolutely zero interest in. 27. A man voluntarily paid $400 to avoid exceeding his hydration allowance after a website pretending to be the Federal Water Consumption Oversight Council warned him he'd been flagged for overuse. The homepage featured animated water droplets crying dramatically, suggesting he'd committed a moral crime against hydration. Instead of asking whether the government actually rations drinking water, he grabbed his card and paid instantly. The scammers sent him a notice urging him to drink responsibly for the good of America, which sounds like a rejected slogan for a bottled water commercial. The government does not police swallowing, but scammers absolutely police gullibility. 28. A college student quickly paid a national dorm safety inspection fee after receiving a text claiming her building had been flagged for digital hazard review. The website she clicked featured a cartoon lightning bolt wearing sunglasses, a visual that should have ended the interaction immediately. Instead, she paid $75 for a promised holographic compliance sticker, imagining inspectors scanning doors like futuristic mall cops. The sticker never arrived. What did arrive were unauthorized charges and an education in why cartoon lightning rarely symbolizes legitimacy. 29. A man paid a fake Federal Television Licensing Authority after a pop-up declared he'd been illegally viewing protected broadcasts. The site implied that watching football without a viewing license was a federal offense, which would make half the country felons by default. It demanded photos of his television, his ID, and a questionnaire about his weekly watch hours, presumably so scammers could adjust pricing like a very unethical streaming service. He paid the fine, convinced he had narrowly avoided legal disaster. The real government does not license televisions, but scammers are always happy to license fear. 30. A confused renter paid a national apartment occupancy verification fee after receiving an urgent email claiming his residency status was unconfirmed. The website looked like a landlord's eviction notice dipped in red, white, and blue clip art. It required a selfie of him holding his lease, a $60 fee, and, for reasons unknown, a short written statement explaining why he liked living there. He submitted everything, believing he was cooperating with federal housing accuracy efforts. The only thing accurately assessed was his vulnerability to authoritative fonts. 31. A woman eagerly purchased a lifetime federal email stability certificate after a website warned her that failing to renew her digital address credentials could result in permanent deletion from national communication records. The homepage displayed a patriotic envelope logo so aggressively decorated it belonged on a novelty t-shirt. She paid $99, printed the certificate, and taped it beside her computer, believing she had secured her constitutional right to receive newsletters. The government does not certify inboxes, but scammers absolutely certified her as a premium donor. After all that, it's amazing anyone still trusts anything with a bald eagle logo. Drop the dumbest scam you've seen in the comments and hit like if your inbox needs therapy.